I'm not exactly sure how official. Scored reviews from some outlets are online already for Prey. Considering review copies just went out yesterday, broken street dates, but like most people, I'm just starting to get into the game, having put in 4 to 5 hours since I got my hands on it. This is a true first impressions piece. Because not only did I not attend the Prey live preview event, I didn't play the hour-long demo this weekender, I have not played 2006's Prey either. So this is literally my first time with this game and this series. I'm a bit confused. The marketing for Prey was sort of all over the place, seeming to focus on action when in reality, this is not really that type of game. Knowing that, I expected that it was probably more along the lines of survival horror. But after playing these first few hours, I honestly don't think that's the right classification either. The concept sounds like a mirror image of Dead Space. You, a non-combat engineer, science type, are stranded on a space station overrun by a deadly alien menace. You have to use your wits to progress through the station, reactivate the parts that are damaged, and figure out what's going on. But Dead Space was a survival horror game bordering on a pure corridor shooter by its later installments. Its primary mechanics were not usually puzzle solving or stealth. They were dismembering aliens with laser-based power tools. So really, other than that initial concept, Dead Space is not even a little bit like Prey. Rather, so far this game feels like a modern Deus Ex title in terms of how it plays, only stripped of many of the elements that make Deus Ex interesting. There's also a bit of a Dishonored feel, but that's due to shared developer Arcane. And Deus Ex inspires more of a gameplay elements, in my estimation. Prey is focused mainly on one thing, from what I can tell, opening doors. You sneak around the station trying to find passwords and keycards to open a frankly ludicrous amount of doors, trekking back through areas many times in what I will admit is some pretty neat level design, not trapping you in an endless forward march through the station, but allowing you to revisit and re-explore old areas frequently. But so far, it doesn't feel like Prey works as a stealth game, an action game, or a puzzle game. It's supposed to be some combination of all three, but I don't think it does any of them very well. Prey does not feel like a stealth-based survival horror game because frankly, it isn't the least bit scary. The enemies aren't really fear-inspiring in their design. Mostly blobs of black static that look like Lost Smoke Monster had some bastard offspring. The environments are bright and open, there's almost zero gore in the entire game so far. Only drained corpses that are meant to be spooky. The game tries to spring jump scares on you with mimics that pose as inanimate objects then spring to life to attack you with a loud sound cue. But they're more irritated than terrifying, and half the time they just run away and don't bother you. The larger monsters are fear-inducing only in the sense that they can kill you quickly and negate your progress. They're not scary for any design or atmospheric reasons, as this game is weirdly well lit and free of pretty much every trapping you'd find in most other survival horror games. As for it being an action game like the trailer suggests, well, similar games like Dishonored and Deus Ex have high chaos components to them. I really just don't see that type of playthrough working here. There's an entire skill tree dedicated to security upgrades, beefing up your weapons and stamina and health, but it's pretty clear that this isn't the type of game that's effective or even fun if you try to play guns blazing. The goals are simply to get keycards, flip switches and unlock rooms. So far, at least, you're not tasked with any huge combat encounters. And speccing into the security tree seems like a waste when upgrades like moving heavy objects out of your way or hacking, fixing things seems much more immediately useful. Perhaps this aspect will change as time goes on. But putting aside horror or action, I don't even know how deep of a puzzle game this really is. That seems to be the main focus, with the objectives mostly based around getting into locked rooms. But these puzzles aren't very complicated. You just find the right keycard, or open the right email containing the passcode. And there you go. These solutions may be hard to find or far away, but they're not mechanically complex. It's like they took one small aspect of Deus Ex and built an entire game around it. Perhaps the puzzles get more complex in time, but right now they're just, how do I avoid getting eaten by this static monster? Or, how do I get to X room or find X object to progress? Portal, this is not. This is my biggest problem with Prey. It seems to borrow heavily, both conceptually and mechanically, from a variety of other games, but strips out much of what made those games interesting. I don't think Prey does anything particularly bad, but so far its biggest sin might be being a bit dull. Its main strength is probably level design, but the action, stealth and puzzle components all seem lacking for different reasons. Again, this is a first impressions piece, and I know there's a lot more to this game than the first 4 or 5 hours. It's supposed to be a pretty expansive experience, so it's entirely possible that many of the issues I'm talking about here are resolved as time goes on, but given that first impressions pieces are all I can really muster right now given the pre-review situation, I will say that this is a game that, so far, does not make the greatest first impression, though I know some will disagree. I like Prey enough to keep playing, and I will certainly get deeper into it. But it's been a weird introductory period, and this game seems confused with its own identity.